Hello, students. My name is Laura Antunes, and I am your virtual content specialist. And in partnership with the Division of Multilingual Learners, I am going to bring you some tips for you to be successful in answering multiple choice questions for the Living Environment Regents exam. Today is Unit 7, Day 5, and we are constructing cladograms through a virtual lab. And our focus question today is how can we use shared direct features to construct cladograms that show different species evolutionary history and relationships through a virtual lab activity. After the lab, your teacher will offer you independent work, and that independent work will consist of multiple choice questions. I will be guiding you through these questions, and I will be offering you tips that are valuable not only for this lesson, but for all multiple choice questions that you will find in your living environment test. Remember, practice, practice, practice. That's what is going to lead you to success. Let's begin. Okay, let's start with this first question. First tip for you. Read through the question very carefully. The diagram below represents evolutionary pathways of 7 groups of organisms alive today. Which 2 living species will be expected to have the most similar proteins? Tip number 2, because most of the times valuable information is in the reading or in the question, let's annotate as we read, take note of what is important from the question. For instance, in here, I will say, this is an evolutionary pathway diagram, and we have 7 groups of organisms, and they're alive today, and they're asking for 2 living species that are expected to have the most similar proteins. As you can see, I am underlining or circling words that are key words for me. Okay, tip number 3, review what you know about this topic and answer the question in your mind. From what I learned in the lab this week, I know that the notes are just telling me that these A, B, C, D, E, F, G organisms did have a common ancestry. But the farther the letter is, the farther that common ancestry is. So I'm just going to try to go over the different notes to see when the species started to split, if they did. So for what I know from today's lab, I know the closer they are, the 2 species, the closer they are also going to be related. They are more similar features, the most things in common, the most traits in common they will have. So I am going to use now tip number 4. Try to eliminate the answers that cannot be right. So they're telling me A and C. A is here and C is over there. So, okay, they're a little bit far. Let's go with B and C. So B and C are as far as A from C in the answer before. So I don't think this is the right answer. I don't think that's the right answer. What about E and F? Oh, it seems that they have one node in common and they just split up not that long ago. And what about H and M? So H and M, H is right here and M is right here. It seems the common ancestor is J, so therefore they split up long time ago. I'm gonna go ahead and say that the correct answer is E and F. Okay, let's go with a second question. 5 different living organisms are represented below: flowering plant, mosquito larva, frog, green heron, aquatic plant. Which statement about the organisms represented above is correct? Remember, number 1 tip, you have to read through the question very carefully. Number 2 tip, we are going to find the valuable information in here. These are different organisms, and we need to look for the statement that is correct about the organisms. Okay? Remember, our tip number 3 is to answer this question in your mind. So for what I'm saying in the question, I'm going to have to look for something that has to do with reproduction or has to do with a different way of obtaining energy, something like that. Okay, remember our tip number 4, which is try to eliminate the answers that are not correct. So let's go ahead and read the answers. All of the organisms are autotroph. What does the word autotroph mean? And this will be our tip number 5. Try to define and find the meaning for the words that are difficult to you. A way of doing this is splitting up the word. For instance, the word auto means self, and the word troph means food. An autotroph organism is an organism that is able to produce its own food. Obviously, not all the organisms in here are autotrophs, so A is not the right answer. Let's go with B. Only the flowering plant, green heron, and aquatic plant carry out photosynthesis. Photo means comes from photography and means light. And synthesis means to create something. I don't remember that the green heron is able to do photosynthesis, and it's not, so this is not the right answer. Number 3, only the frog and green heron can maintain homeostasis. Home means similar, and stasis means stable. I am pretty sure this is not the right answer because all the animals are able to maintain homeostasis, which is fundamental for them to survive. So, number 4 says all the organisms pass on traits through reproduction. And we have seen that the word traits means the characteristics that pass from parents to the offsprings. I'm going to go ahead and say that number 4 is the right answer. Okay, I am going to leave this third question for you to practice, but before I go, let me give you 2 more tips. Tip number 6, if you don't understand the question very well, rewrite the question in a different way. For instance, we can read this question that you have right here. Which number will indicate the most recent common ancestor of the hyrax, elephant, and manatee on the section of this mammalian evolutionary tree? Let's say that I cannot understand very well what the question is asking me for. So I'm going to try to say to myself in a different way. For now, they're asking me for a number that to begin with. So a number can only be from the diagram 1, 2, 3, 3, or 4. And I need to look for the number basically that will give me the most recent common ancestor for these 3 animals that I have right here. All right, so I think I understand the question now. This leaves me to my last tip today, which is tip number 7. Always answer all questions in a Regents exam because questions that are blank or wrong do not penalize in the Regents exam. All right, so I leave you practicing here, and I'm going to say goodbye to you for now, and I'll see you in my next video. Have a great day. Bye bye.